I want to review AEW Dynamite, and I do want to say that unfortunately, this is 9:45, and I decided not to watch the main event because they picked their main event very poorly tonight. You end with Tony Storm commentating a Mina Shirakawa and Jamie Hayter match. Why would that main event a go home show to a pay per view? Should it be really the trios match? Or should it really be Osprey and Hangman Adam Page? It was just a very poor choice and just something that was very out of order. This could have even just opened the show. So, that wasn't good. But overall, I would say that this show did have ups and downs, but I want to go over it really quickly. That first of all, I want to say that the Osprey and the Hangman match was definitely one of the best promos that you've seen in AEW, and I also like what they announced, which is that it's going to be Osprey versus Hangman, and that's going to be the main event of AEW Double or Nothing. And I think that that's very appropriate for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can't end the show every single time with Anarchy in the Arena. It would just be like if you had the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and you end it with Hell in a Cell. That sometimes if there's other matches that usurp the main event, it has to be the main event, really. And then the other thing is that this is the most consequential match. It determines a lot of things for AEW. It determines, who's going to face John Moxley in Texas, and then also, too, really the direction of the company. That I think a lot of people will be more optimistic if it was Osprey, but there will be a lot of people that may be a little bit more pessimistic and concerned if it's Hangman, because I think Osprey's really the company guy, and I think that with Hangman, people may say, hey, well, since he's friends with the Young Bucks may interfere. They may do a crappy swerve where Hangman is actually the mastermind in the Death Riders thing or whatever, really. So there's definitely a lot of just, it's just so consequential what's going to happen. I also like this because they didn't have one of them turn heel or whatever, or bash a bottle over each other's head, because I think that would be a little predictable. The next thing that I want to mention is that they both did a hell of a job with the promo. They were so both emphatic, and they had a lot of emotions and feelings. And I liked how Hangman outpoured his emotions. This was the right time to kind of be like, okay, well, Osprey speaks with a lot of emphaticness. You have to match that, or otherwise it just doesn't match, really. So it's like what I said about Hangman. He's one of the best wrestlers on the roster because he really knows when to match the situation. He knows when to speak with emphasis. He knows when to be quiet. He knows when to have a hardcore type of style. He knows when to have a high flyer type of style. He definitely is a multi-tool of a professional wrestler. So I really, really, really appreciate that. And overall, it was a really great promo. They both said things about that why mean stuff. Osprey talks about all the sacrifices he's made for the company, especially with travel. Wanting to really finish the story with him where he comes into the UK with the title, and also just do it for people who believed in him when he was an immature kid, and do it for his son. And Hangman is just he's went through hell and back a lot of times, and he's never really won these tournaments. He's always come up short. So this is his way of saying, I want this. This really needs to happen. So it was a really great promo, and it's good that they had the beer bottles, because it really teased if Hangman was going to get violent and physical and all that. So it created, as I said with AEW, what they do really well is that it created a option C or option D, really. So I'm okay with that. So excellent promo, one of the best promos that they had. They really added fire to the show, and I'm happy that's the main event of Double or Nothing, because this is the most consequential. You don't know where it's going to go, because, like I said, it could end in three ways. It could end in Hangman, Osprey, or it becoming a triple threat. And the next thing is that you had the Hurt Syndicate initiating MJF. They had a bunch of lawyers sign. So it was actually funny because I like what MJF did. One of the fans was holding up an MJF suck sign, and then he ripped it away, and then they did their thing. And, MJF was kind of dorky. He wore one of the Hurt Syndicate's hats, really. And then Dustin Rhodes was hyping the match between the Hurt Syndicate and the Sons of Texas. And I really appreciate Dustin. He's a really great wrestler, but his promo was bad tonight. He just went on and on and on and on and on and on and on. He sounds just like me when I speak publicly about my filmmaking. There's a certain point where it just really, 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 really dragged, and that just wasn't good, really. So you definitely has to be careful of that. So. But obviously, we all know that there's no way that the Hurt Syndicate is losing. And then the next match was Anthony Bowens versus Ricochet. I was very, very surprised by this match because he had Anthony Bowens lose, and I was kind of saying to myself, "Oh no, they shouldn't be having a match because it would be bad if it was Ricochet versus Anthony Bowens and Bowens lose, even if it was a DQ or something the referee didn't see really." So. That's what happened. The referee did see the scissor, and now Ricochet beats Anthony Bowens. So it's almost like, what are you going to do with Anthony Bowens? Because you got to ride that momentum. There's a lot of people that like him as a performer, and as I was kind of advocating, that he really needs a double or nothing match. So I'm worried about his future, but it's also good because this match puts a lot of heel heat on Ricochet. And they're setting up a structure match between Mark Briscoe and the other guy, Mark Briscoe and Ricochet. So that was good. And then also I forgot that there was the Death Riders versus John Moxley and the Young Bucks versus the Ops, and was for Strickland. So I wasn't really into this match. I kind of knew how it was really going to go, and I actually don't remember who won the match. Oh, no, Swerve Strickland got the pinfall on one of the Bucks, really, but they have this massive beatdown, and they revealed it's going to be a 6-on-6, and, tomorrow, if I have time, I'm going to talk about the updated AEW card for Double or Nothing, really. I think they have a really great team. I'm happy that they have women in the match now, because I think that it works it really, really works. So they need to just, do a lot of it. And then also, I think it's going to be really, really epic. So I'm excited to see, what they pull off. Because I'm actually going to go to Phoenix and watch it. It's actually funny, because I'll tell you guys, I was going to get ringside seats, but I got a seat that's above the ringside area, because one of the reasons was because, Anarchy in the Arena, you want to kind of, have a bird's eye view to see all the mayhem, all the carnage, really, so that's why I did that. And $300 less. And the next thing that they did after that was, because they had big schmaz, really, so, after all that, then after, Ricochet versus Bowens, they had Okada, talk about, challenging Speedball Mike Bailey. It seemed like it was going to go in that direction. People thought he was going to say bitch, but he didn't do that. And then I'm trying to think that they had, the Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter promo. I wasn't really into this at all, because it's, Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Moné, they have no fire or pizzazz or anything in their dialogue. So I wasn't really into this, and it just fell flat for me. I think they're gonna have a great match, but they're just not. They're kind of off, really. I just don't know what it is. I think with a lot of the women on the AEW roster, they showed a promo video of Jamie Hayter and her success and trying to beat Mercedes. Try to build somebody's character a little bit more. Let's say if it was Billy Starks versus Mercedes, they would show Billy Starks, maybe as a teenage girl, wrestling, overcoming a lot, and then getting to the point where she's facing Mercedes Moné. I really think that they don't have that type of dynamic, with... That's how I feel. I don't really feel they don't have that type of dynamic where it is the privileged girl versus the hard worker, or it's really just, is Mercedes Moné going to really care about who she's facing? Is the person really a challenge to Mercedes Moné? And that's not really a captivating story, really, because it really feels like, oh, well, somebody trying to prove themselves to Mercedes. And like I said with Mercedes Moné, she's a great wrestler, but she's not like a Will Ospreay. She's not like an AJ Styles. Like, there's nothing like that makes her so tour de force, really. So anybody trying to prove themselves to Mercedes, it falls flat. I think she has great matches, but there's nothing. She has great matches, but she's not compelling, and I think that's the best way to say it. Like, who can remember one Mercedes Moné match to say that that's like legendary? I think that people will say, okay, the matches are great and they're cool and they're good, they're decent, they're passable, but she doesn't have anything that I think that goes to legendary status of, like, let's talk about this, let's talk about all the moves and sequences and all that stuff, So she doesn't have that. And like going through my head, I think that that's everything that happened on the show. And roughly it went by really, really quickly. And, it was a really fast show, and that's a sign of a great show. But like I said, I think they picked the wrong main event. This should have been the opener, and the main event should have been them deciding, Anarchy in the Arena and who's going to face who. So, that's all I got to say. I think it was a passable show. Because they knocked out the part with the Ospreay and Hangman promo, but the way that they ordered things, the show wasn't that good. And I wish there was a couple more matches announced to Anarchy in the Arena, but it is what it is, really. And sometimes the Anarchy in the Arena, because the Anarchy Arena match is like around an hour or 45, between 45 minutes and an hour, it sometimes makes sense for them to, how should I kind of say this, not have that many matches. And I think that's actually good for AEW, just to prove that they can go a lot of matches or not a lot of matches. So, I think overall it was a passable show, but definitely significant strengths and significant weaknesses. So if I was going to let it grade, I would say it's definitely like a C- type of show. I also want to mention that I did turn on and see like the post main event where they had like a mini Anarchy in the Arena, just to kind of really tease it. And there's a couple things I want to say about it. That first of all, I do not like that they were playing like the music from the opening intro, because like I was like, no, what the hell is this? It sounds very upbeat and jolly type of thing. So that just kind of makes it look a little stupid. You need to have like something really epic, or like something that people know. So like if you have the EP theme, or if you have Joe's theme or something like that, they should have done that. And then the next thing is that it's not a good idea to do something like that, because, if you have a lot of Anarchy and Arena stuff, prior, then people are going to be like, oh, well, like, it doesn't feel as special, really. It's almost like, showing off the birthday cake before dinner, and then showing it at dessert with the candles in it. Like, you just, it's better to show it all at the end, really. So that's how I feel about it. And then the other thing about that is, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm happy that women in this, just to make it a little different, they definitely want to just hype the crowd and create like this big, like, oh shit type of thing. So I get that. And for a long time, it was like the Team AEW was doing a great job. And then at the end, the EVPs did a great job, did a great like comeback. So I'm okay with that, because you can't make it one-sided. Because usually when you watch, like look at John Cena, every single time John Cena has a championship match, what happens? Usually the enemy or the person against him beats him down, really. So it makes it predictable to say, hey, the person who beats down John Cena is going to lose. The same way here, if you did something like, oh, well, one had an advantage and then it ended the way of the villains, I kind of don't know what's going to happen this weekend. And then also there's a lot of unpredictability, because really this is just more of a bragging rights type of thing. It's not really a thing that's going to impact AEW by who wins this. So, any team, both teams can benefit from winning or losing. But I think the other big issue is that I think the EPs are going to win, because then you can set up blood and guts. And then I think the other problem with it is if the EVPs win, you never know if it says, hey, they're going to interfere in the main event. And they shouldn't interfere. It really has to be Ospreay versus Hangman. No interference, no bullshit, no like clusterfuck, and it has to be one of them. It cannot be okay, well, the EVPs interfere as a triple threat, because that's going to create a huge clusterfuck or whatever, really. So, it's definitely interesting to see what they're going to do. And that's one thing I'm a little worried about, is that they're going to turn to a triple threat, and then they're going to set up Blood and Guts. And because, imagine if the EVPs win Anarchy in the Arena, they interfere in the main event, they say it's a triple threat, and then they interfere again at the main event of All In, and then you have Blood and Guts, where they kind of get taken down a peg, and then Darby Allin comes back, and then you make Darby Allin champion. That's probably how they're going to do things. That's a road, really. But I do hope that the main event just has no interference. They put it on Ospreay. He's the most marketable person right now, even though Hangman's a better story. And then they go with it. But overall, it was a really great show. And, definitely, I hope they add a few more matches. They give Bowen something. They give Adam Cole something. And Kyle Fletcher and a few other people deserve something. So, it was an alright go-home show. And then, like I said, I am happy that they ended it with... I'm actually really, really happy that they ended it with Anarchy in the Arena. It had to be that or Ospreay and Hangman. But, this is good enough for me. Because Tony Storm and Mia Shirakawa, that's not the main event. That's not even close to a main event for a pay-per-view. So they ended it correctly with focusing on the right, people.